In tonight's Reiner Report, a story you'll only see here on ABC 10. California created a commission that would strip bad cops of their badges, but now the state is trying to exempt the commission, known as Post, from sharing information about the bad cops with the public.
ABC 10's Morgan Reiner covers all things politics. And Morgan, this is not going through the regular process?
Chris, lawmakers didn't introduce a bill to make this happen. The governor's administration is attempting to do this through the budget process, which means there are no real hearings on both sides where people get to show up and express their opinions about this in the policy way.
Senator Steve Bradford authored SB 2 in 2021 to make sure officers that are found of wrongdoing can't work for another law enforcement agency. I interviewed him about it then.
This is a way to build public trust and restore confidence in the community that law enforcement will be held accountable.
Governor Newsom signed the bill in an emotional ceremony.
I know how hard this is.
But in a recent budget trailer bill, it contains language seen here saying Post is not required to disclose personnel and background investigation files. Right now, if you go on Post's website, you'll see a list of names of officers who either lost their certification or are suspended, with a short explanation, sometimes one word like dishonesty, explaining why.
Openness, transparency, and accountability are the first duty of democratic government. That is the first job of the government, not the last. And, the public has a compelling right to know. The public has a constitutional right in California to access public information.
David Loy is legal director of the First Amendment Coalition. I showed him what I found in an agenda from an Assembly Budget Subcommittee on April 24th, where you can see the governor is requesting the change. The staff comment says it's because it would require significant resources, staffing, and time to process the public records requests.
This is an obligation that local law enforcement agencies already comply with, and with far less resources than the state agency.
So what's the argument for making the state provide these records, not just local departments?
So if Post has collected these records and you as a member of the press or anyone as a member of the public wants to inquire into patterns of officer misconduct up and down the state, it's much more efficient and effective from the standpoint of the press and public to obtain those records from a single source which has collected them from around the state, rather than forcing you or other members of the public to go up and down the state to all 58 counties.
McGeorge School of Law adjunct professor Chris McCaley says it's wrong to try to change this policy through the budget.
Unfortunately, I think that we are seeing more and more bills or laws being enacted through the budget process under the auspices of some sort of fiscal implication instead of going through the regular public policy process. And as we talked about earlier, I think that this particular proposed exemption is definitely one that should go through the legislative process, because I would think that the legislature views it in a contrary manner.
I reached out to the governor's office. They sent me to Post, and in the last few hours, I got a statement from Post saying the budget trailer bill doesn't exempt the public from seeking access to records, but rather channels it again through the appropriate agencies. The spokesperson said the burden of review, redaction, and production of reports lies within those local agencies. Chris and Laura.
The next question is, if this is being done through the budget, when would this go into effect?
So lawmakers and the governor right now are still negotiating on the budget, but because this is being done through the budget, as soon as the budget is enacted on June 15th, that's the deadline, this would go into effect right away with the budget.
So as soon as June 15th then. Okay, our Morgan Reiner, thank you.